How many of you guys actually did your reading? Alright, cool. Who, so tell me, what was your favorite story out of it?
Turkeys in the kitchen.
Do you like Turkeys in the Kitchen the best?
Yeah.
The last class was dumpster diving.
That's the one. It touched me.
Yeah. My favorite is actually, you know, something that happens in your life that kind of gives that flair, that aha, where you go, oh yeah, that happened. So the one that I particularly just got into was the Me Talk Pretty Sometime. And the reason being is I lived in Germany for several years, and my husband had, my husband had, I'm a saint. I'm going to say this. I feel like I shouldn't have been sainted on this day because my husband's high school sweetheart came out to Germany for a month and a half, and my husband was in, and we'd already been married for like 6 or 7 years, but my husband had, he was in a combat communications squadron, so he couldn't go a lot of places. He was always on like they call it a 1 hour leash, so they couldn't go more than an hour outside of where you were. And so it was left up to me to entertain and show off Europe to his high school sweetheart, which that in itself.
Why did she come out?
Yeah, exactly.
First of all,
yeah.
that's where I'm just, can't even believe that even happened. I don't know why they're still communicating. I don't know. You should be sainted for that.
So anyway, after a month and a half, the last hurrah is hubby actually gets a weekend off, and we get to go to Paris. And in going to Paris, now I apologize because this is from experience. Parisians really like themselves. Okay, they're sometimes a little bit. Well, like I said, they really like themselves. They don't want to be rude. But so we get to Paris. We had a great time. But if you live in Germany, and this was back in the 90s, we used to get these SO coupons from the gas station that Americans could use not to have to pay the local rates, because it was like $4 back in the 90s per gallon, like more than it is now per gallon of gas in the 90s. And so you get these coupons that the American government gave so that we could get this better rate, like SO stations. Well, there was an SO station right at the border of Germany and France, and then to get to Paris was like another 2-hour drive. So a full tank or 2-3 hour drive. A half tank would get you, or a full tank would get you there, but not all the way back. And so our upstairs neighbor said, "Here are 2 big, huge things of gas. Take it, get to the SO station, fill up, and then go into Paris, enjoy Paris, and on your way home, use the 2 gas tanks, and that'll get you back to the SO station." All right, cool. We load up. At the time, my boy, and then my husband, myself, and
the X. You can just call her the X.
Yeah,
that's
the
okay.
X. And anyway, so we get there. We get to Paris. We have a lot of fun. We spend all of our money. We get to the underground parking by the consulate, by the U.S. consulate, and lo and behold, Sunday, so it's closed, of course. And lo and behold, we put the gas in, and we're ready to go. And realized that our upstairs neighbor had filled those gas cans not with gas, but with water. Now, the only French that I have been able to learn, or the only lessons, was 9th grade high school. I have to say that I think I speak fairly decent French for only learning it in 9th grade high school, but I could not remember the word for water. And I'm sitting here, and I tell the attendant of the place, I'm like, I finally resorted to saying bad gas, because every time I would tell him that my car was broken, he was like giving me spark plugs and all of these things. And I'm like, no. And I'm getting very frustrated with him because he's not understanding what I'm saying, and I'm like, it's not that. He's like, it is this. I'm like, it's not that. And so finally I'm like, how do you say bad gas? The word's essence, right? So I'm like, essence, mal essence. And he's like, and I'm from Germany, so I'm like, Auto kaputt. And he's like, what is kaputt? And this is this whole thing. I'm angry, I'm mad. What I'm saying is nonsense to him. What he's saying is nonsense to me. And we're just, plus I had no money. So So I knew that we put all this water in our gas tank and that we had no way of paying anybody to fix it, except for the ex. Because she had, credit cards galore, she works for Auburn. And so I look at her and I'm like, really? You would rather be stuck here? Which, by the way, she hates kids. I have a baby boy. I'm like, you would rather be stuck here with a 3-month-old than give us the money to fix the damn car. I was that angry. And so this guy, he's looking at her like, are you gonna help? Yeah. Where's the money? Come on, I'll get. So anyway, finally they get. He finally just gives me the phone. He's like, here, fix it yourself, kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, we can call some sort of station. So I called, and somebody who fixed cars coming, and he looks at it, and I'm like showing him the gas tank and saying bad gas. And he's like, oh, gas out. I'm like, yes. And so he had to siphon all the gas out, but they couldn't do it from the gas tank because water, of course, gas floats on water. So if he did that, he would be siphoning out gas. So they had to get like under the car and siphon it out. So it was a horrible, horrible experience, but it was a very similar experience to what the gentleman experienced in France, right? So that's why I really love that. I mean, that story was just like, oh my gosh, yes. I understand exactly where he's at. So that one really appealed to me. Why did you guys like the turkeys in the kitchen?
It is true. Yeah, it is so
What's so true?
That men only make a specific dish, and they like staying out, and like the whole watching the children.
You guys are meeting the wrong men.
Yeah, I was like, I don't cook in the family. But no, it is really true though. It's fun.
One of the things I really kind of appreciated about the whole thing was that, well, first of all, you know that the turkeys in the kitchen is a metaphor, right?
Yeah.
Who's the turkey?
The wife.
The wife, who's just like, all we want to do is you watch the kids, you can't even do that much, kind of thing. And then yet she still put on that beautiful face to bring out everything out and present it to the people, with her guests and stuff. So that was definitely interesting. And then how about dumpster diving? What surprised you about that?
How well written it was in the degree of intelligence. The man who had been described as a hobo or a scavenger was writing it.
Mm-hmm. The syntax, you wouldn't expect that. How, in your prior knowledge of somebody who is homeless, how do you suppose a homeless person, just maybe we might be biased or whatever, but what is our opinion of what they would sound like?
Really uneducated.
Yeah, we're like, if you're educated, you won't be homeless, right?
But
And
they have really good survival skills.
I agree with that. That's very interesting. But so that is a biased opinion though, because people could become.
A majority of the percent of homeless people actually work jobs. And it's just the economy that beats you down. And you can't afford $1,300 to get into a place when you're only making $300, $200 a week. And on top of some of these people taking care of kids and whatnot. And it sounds to me like this guy took the choice to be a dumpster diver and not met those people before. I mean, they can be college professors, they can be, bums on the street, but they have an urge to find themselves in different ways, and why not be creative in how you live your life, I guess. Obviously he was educated because when he was looking in the dumpster, he was making sure there wasn't mold on it or that it was a properly packaged item or that, the guy wasn't stupid out there on the street.
And as you said, the survival skills were uncanny. One of the things that you pointed out was the degree of, the syntax was very sophisticated to show a theme that was very simple. Understanding the human condition, right? And what kind of conditions was he understanding? Hunger, the pain of hunger, survival, those basic instincts, right? So understanding better the human condition was the theme of that story, and just having a better understanding, that aha moment. Okay, was a similar theme also in He Got Pretty Sometimes, right? that understanding of the human condition. Although the author of that, which I always forget his name, it's like Sanders or something. But his idea was very simplistic, nonsensical words to convey a similar theme, understanding of the human condition, right? And so the themes were similar, but the way that they got about to that theme was different. We taught pretty sometimes showing frustration and anger at that teacher, and how, and it wasn't until the end that he was just like, aha. He had that moment, right? Whereas in the other one, if we're showing some differences, in dumpster diving, the guy already kind of knew himself, and he was already comfortable with himself. In We Talk Pretty, he wasn't comfortable with himself until the end. When he leaned back and went, I get it now. I can be frustrated. I don't have to know exactly what she's saying to understand that she's frustrated. To understand that everybody is going through the same thing in life. Okay? And I mean, this happens with you, right? You come in and you're not an English speaker as a first language, and you get frustrated when you're listening to these words.
You just mentioned something in terms of the kitchen. Listening to the water coming out. See, I didn't get it.
So you don't understand what I'm saying?
Well, no, I do understand what you're saying. It's just the expressions,
Yeah.
like certain things like looking at a woman as a turkey, Yeah, no.
We think of that as a dumb animal that,
Well, it's just like him in his reference to, what is it that she was talking about? She gave a gender to a thing.
Oh, yeah.
He's thinking, like, gender to a thing. Who would do that, it's a thing. You wouldn't call it law or
Everybody knows that the typewriter is a feminine gender. And they're like, oh, everybody knows that. Okay. Just like everybody is, and then how the teacher was upset about when she asked the one question. She asked everybody, what is the most important thing in your life? And their idea was, well, I want to be able to impress her with my vocabulary. So I'm going to tell her all the things that are important in my life that I can say. Oh, I can say 10, so that's my most important thing. And she's like, that's the most important. And the one gal, the first gal I think that she really picked on was the one that said that her least favorite thing was mosquitoes. She said, you must be the most unique person in the world because nobody else here hates mosquitoes, I'm sure. And you could just see the frustration in somebody's face when they're trying to get through to a group of people. Yes, the teacher was the personification of evil, really. I mean, she was really a mean, poking people in the eyes and things like that. She was really mean. But that idea of everybody goes through anger, everybody goes through frustration, and just one day going, I get it. Me as a teacher, I meet students sometimes that have potential. Even that student that, wants to be too coy, or, hey, it's not cool, the chicks don't dig smart guys, or the girl, I'm so blonde, or whatever it is, okay?
Can you show us that one more time?
Oh, it's so blonde. Whatever it is, you want to take that student, and you just want to shake the living crud out of them and go, you can do this, I know you can, you're just making it harder on yourself. Or you go, you paid for this, I don't care. What do you think the teacher would want to do? You paid for this, I don't care. I think she cared. Because she came there every day. And to finally be so frustrated at somebody to come in and say, I hate you. I don't think she really meant I hate you as in, I really hate your guts, get out of here. But that's the way she knew how to express it. What do you think she probably meant? And we can't be 100% right.
I don't like your attitude.
Yeah, you have the wrong attitude. Just hate your attitude right now. Okay? Have you ever accidentally said to a friend like you hate them, and what you really meant was you hate their attitude? Or
Yeah, it just comes out wrong.
to your parents? That's the biggest thing to say to your parents. I hate you, you really.
I never said that to my parents.
Never?
Oh,
Yeah,
what kind of right?
You will.
Or just being such a.
No idea. I never said that. I was so calm.
Well,
So okay, let's just talk a little bit about what are some things then, and we all enjoyed the stories and such, but we have to figure out ways in which to compare and contrast what's going on. And no matter what, when you approach comparing and contrasting something, we don't just do it just to go, oh, that's a green, that's orange, blah, 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 right? Or, we don't look and say completely different things that have nothing really, there's no reason to compare it. A dog and a rock. Okay, unless you say that the dog has rocks for brains or something. There's really no reason to compare a dog and a rock. Okay? Unless you can come up with some establishment. And so, why would we compare literature to other literature? Why do we do that? Why would we want? Okay, so it's an art form, and you see things differently, yeah? Writing style is a big. Style is huge. We talked about that even in just punctuation. Just our style of writing is huge. Really, why we learn or why we gain knowledge is to have a better. One of the reasons I really like the themes that came out of these stories is that a lot of times the reasons why we do things is to have a better understanding of the human condition as it is, right? To understand our fellow humans better and get along with them better, right? And so. That's really what we want. We just want to be happy. And sometimes for people being an antagonist makes them happy, and that's, so they're going to be negative. And sometimes for people being, happy and the protagonist and always trying to do the right thing makes them happy. But that's just kind of the differences in style. And so when we're reading literature, that's just a reflection of what our culture is like. Okay? And so I really like my favorite two probably to compare and contrast would be the dumpster diving to the impact trees sometimes, just because there's really a lot of meat there as far as the themes. Let's look at the characterization. What if I wanted to compare something other than themes? They're all first-person narrator, aren't they? All the stories have had first-person narrator. How do you know?
Because they're talking about their own experience.
I'm sorry?
They each talk about their own experience.
Yeah, it's all about their own experience. So we know it's first person because they say words like I and me. Okay? And so all four pieces use first person narrator to convey a different message. Okay? Let's look at the turkeys in the kitchen and serving in Florida. Characterization. Were they static characters, as in did they always stay the same and never really change or have that aha moment, or were they dynamic characters? Dynamic meaning that they changed throughout or learned a lesson throughout.
I think they were static in those two stories.
Very static, and because they were just conveying this is what happened, right? And everybody kind of get on board with me. Attitude, maybe.
Yeah.
So those were both static characters. So is that a lot to talk? Is that a lot to talk about in an essay? If I was writing an essay about similarities and differences between these two literature pieces, I could talk about how both characters are static. Neither of them really learned from their experience. They just, or did they learn? Was it one of those? Do you think maybe they learned something from what they were doing? Do you think that the turkey in the kitchen, do you think she could have changed how she, or you think she's always going to go and she's always going to be good? Yeah, she could do that. Just like we always put on that happy face when our guests come over, even if it's our husband's ex. And that just blows my mind. Yeah. You know what? She kicked me off. My husband and I have now been married. This is our 21st year together, and she kicked me off on Facebook the other day. She'll actually write me, and we are just politically.
She befriended you, or?
Oh no. But politically, I don't use Facebook for politics.
You did why that pisses me off.
I just want that. No, it's like I will come close to deleting people for politics, for political posts. I just can't stand it. Yeah. Because you can have your view, I can have my view. That's great. I will have adult conversations with anybody as a conversation, but if you just call me up and say, I'm like, what? So yeah, she picked me off, but she's crazy. I don't know why. I'm crazy. He married me, I've been married to him for 21 years.
Are they like really good friends still?
They're not, she's in New Hampshire, well, yeah, they talk, but she's in New Hampshire.
So which one can't let go?
Her.
Mm.
Which is hilarious because, like she's high and mighty and he's finished up the Air Force and just kind of an easygoing, loafs around kind of guy. And yeah, so I don't understand it, but oh well. Anyway, off to Miss Benjamin's personal life and back to the story. So these static characters that don't change. The other two stories, dynamic characters or static characters? Dynamic, at least for the, how was Dumpster diving? How was he dynamic?
I think he was more static because he kind of stayed in his thing even before it was almost he talked about. I was fascinated with it and protecting it. He just kind of stayed in that slump and said, I would like to get out of this and create a stable life for myself, but I don't see that being realistic.
As far as the dynamic part goes, everyone sees them as not being educated, but he seemed very educated, so he was like totally blew my mind right now.
Okay.
Educated people, so maybe that could be my point.
The definition in literary terms of dynamic and static characterization is, in static characterization, they stay the same throughout the story, they don't really learn a lesson. In a dynamic character, as a result of something that happens in the story, will change. So, as a result of learning from this teacher, the fairly privileged kid, he was, come on, you got to go study in France, you're privileged. So this fairly privileged guy is thinking about himself as how negative he is. Oh, I feel so bad about myself. I would want to smack him, actually. So you're saying, you got to go to Paris and study and do all these artsy things, and you feel bad about yourself. And then here's this guy who's homeless, has every right to be upset with society, maybe, and says, oh, I love going in these dumpsters, you should see the cool stuff I find, and hey, I can help out my fellow companions and let them know that those crackers aren't going to kill them, and I'm going to show them how not to get botulism, and hey, So this guy who could learn from what's going on and obviously had some sort of knowledge about the world. And I'm sitting here thinking, how did he get a hold, not that you can't go to the library or whatever, but he ended up calling or Webster and getting them to send him the definitions of the dumpster and everything like that. And so you say, if you're that innovative, you can't become a teacher or a wildlife conservationist or something. There's a lot of things that are available for somebody with that kind of skill that makes you wonder why he didn't just try something new, make a change. But he didn't. He was content. So, but is it okay to be content? No. In my mind, you can't be, because I'm always finding new stuff. But there you go. So you can talk about characterization. You can talk about syntax. That's the words, the actual words. Not only just the words, like simplistic words, nonsensical words, but the sentence patterns. Like, were they simplistic sentence patterns, or were they, like the compound sentences? Get in your book and get in your book and look up the dumpster diving. I must have dropped my book in my. 146. See if you can find some words or sentence patterns that are just like a little bit more complex than you saw in You Speak Pretty Sometime. Okay.
The first one.
What does it say?
Long before I began dumpster diving, I was impressed with dumpsters. Enough so that I wrote the Merriam-Webster Research Service to discover what I could about the word dumpster.
Okay, so that's a compound sentence one, and it also shows that this guy is, that he's educated. But something I saw, if you look on page 147, not the very, 2 paragraphs up. But eating from dumpsters is the thing that separates the dilettante from the professionals. Dilettante. Now, you can infer what that means just based off of the rest of the sentence, without looking it up. What do you think does hottie?
A beginner or
Yeah, like,
somebody who's
Novice.
kind of the difference, well, because he explains that there's a difference between a scrounger and a scavenger. So that's pretty much what he's saying there as well.
So he has very precise language, and that's the way you would describe that. This guy has such precise syntax that he describes the difference between a scavenger and a
Scrounger.
scrounger.
Mhm.
A scrounger is very different from a scavenger to him. Now for us, they might kind of be synonyms of each other. You're scrounging for things, maybe you're scavenging through something. But he is so precise in his language that he uses these complex words. And so that's what syntax is describing how an author uses language and sentence structure to portray something, to give the image. So here's this very prim and proper hobo, kind of strange, not something that we expect. Okay, so then if we're looking at Me Talk Pretty Sometime, it's very simplistic sentence structure. And all these nonsensical words, which I think is hilarious. I guess 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs down. If you have not moved or by this time, and yes, those are probably how to say those words, then you should not be in this room. What does that mean? What if I said, écoutez classe? You know what it means. What did I tell you to do? Ah! Je suis mal à l'aise.
Careful, she's poking behind now.
So she understood, so she's a happy student. You guys are like, what the heck is she saying to do? I said, listen, you're giving me a headache because you don't know what I'm talking about. Ugh! You're frustrating me. Right? You didn't have to listen to me. You could see what I was doing. You could see that teacher was upset. Right? But he used nonsensical words to show the audience that. Simple word structure, simple syntax to show the audience that. Okay? So if we were going to compare and contrast essays, you would have to find these elements and decide what it is that I'm going to compare and contrast. Okay? And what's my purpose? And it can't just be that I'm in Miss Benjamin's English class. Okay? It provides a purpose. It could be as little as, in looking for, and looking for the theme of the human condition. I noticed these things about the essays, whatever. But you have to come up with some reasoning as to why you're comparing and contrasting. It can't just be, look, it's green. Oh, it's yellow, it's different. Oh. Okay? If you could, you guys are going to have a choice. I'm not going to tell you what the choice is until the very end. And if you don't tick me off about getting ready, like throwing your stuff together at exactly 3:35 or 3:45, then I'll give you the choice. If not, then keep it behind. Okay, we're going to. I'm giving you some notes again. It's those structured notes. Have a nice teacher. Back if you will. While I'm at it, I'm also going to give you this. This is a Venn diagram. I gave you two. One so that you can use when I tell you to, and the other you could use for your planning on your paper if you want. And just as a note, so you should have read all 4 stories. The working rough draft of our essay is going to be due on Tuesday, which means you have the weekend to do it. So you need to start thinking as we're going through these through this workshop about how to structure a compare and contrast essay and things that you can do for compare and contrast, once you start thinking of how I might organize my paper, maybe if I was using theme as a similarity. Now you get to choose. I can compare just the similarities, I can compare just the differences, or I can weigh the two and say some similarities, some differences. Okay? Obviously the pieces are different pieces. So we can't just point out the obvious. That's a square, that's a circle. Okay? They're all different. They have a different message, but they have similar themes. They have obviously different words, or different authors. You can't be silly and say, oh, well, they're by different authors. That's a difference. We're not just making a list of differences. Okay? If there's more, just pop them up here.
Well, I think
or if there's not enough, let me know.
we need 3 more of the compare and contrast notes.
3 more?
Yeah.
You guys those over to her? They have this technology thing figured out now, so it won't take 10 minutes to do that.
Fingers crossed.
And toes. It did turn on.
What's a good sign?
Okay. Some of this stuff is for review for folks that are like, I haven't been so long. So don't, sometimes I do that. I kind of backtrack and make things for people who maybe speak language or second language, for people who, oh no, this is horrible. What's going on? Why can't I see this? I didn't want to see it before. So when you see, so when you're going, I know this already, maybe not for your benefit, but the benefit of those who could use the help. Okay? So, realistically, it used to just be called a comparison essay. It's a given that you contrast. When you compare things, you always look at both similarities and differences. Okay? So compare and contrast is, if you compare things, you show how they're similar. If you're contrasting, you're showing how they're different. You get to choose. You can do a compare essay, you can complete a contrast essay, or you can complete a balance of the two on your essay, your choice. And whatever you choose just depends on how you're going to structure your essay. The structure changes a little bit as far as what you put in each paragraph. Okay? In most writing situations, we use these together. We do some comparing, we do some contrasting. Like I said, both of them have the same theme, but one of them uses simplistic syntax and the other one uses very complex syntax. The one that uses the complex syntax, the dumpster diving, is trying to convey a very simplistic theme of survival and just being happy. And the guy who uses a very simple language, kind of coming up in the world, has the theme of understanding the human condition of anger and being upset and frustration. A lot of times when we're describing things, we use a process called analogy. Okay? When you were doing your SATs, you used analogy. That's where you use something that you're already familiar with to help you understand something you're not as familiar with. Okay? You guys remember a hammer is to a saw, right? Those were analogies. Okay? So those are some of the things we're going to look at when we're going through this. Two things to be compared must have enough in common to justify your comparison. Like I said, we don't do the rock and the dog. There's no real justification for that. Okay? In making comparisons, you should move beyond obvious things. And in literature, it's pretty easy. But what if I were comparing and contrasting, the iPhone and the Galaxy? They're both phones. Really? Okay. Sometimes when things are very, very similar, like the Galaxy and the iPhone, it's better to write the contrast. That's what's more worthy of writing about. Okay? You guys are going to get to choose your topic based off of our readings and things. And make sure not to choose two totally unrelated subjects. Okay? They have to have some basic similarities. Like, for example, you could compare two movies or the book to the movie version.
Oh,
do
we
that.
don't have to compare the essays?
See, there's where your 345. That's where
No,
your
I'm
345 comes
asking.
in.
I thought that the whole point was that we were comparing two essays, but you just said we could pick.
This is where I want you to wait until 345.
I'll shut up now.
Two sports, two vehicles that are similar, shelters that are similar, things like that. Okay, guys? Have you guys ever taken a film as lit class?
Oh, what?
Film as lit?
Yeah.
Film as literature?
Yeah.
Can film not have themes? It's the same thing as reading a book, right? If you're
No.
realistic. Yeah, sure. I can talk about a film having a theme, or them using syntax in a certain way, or them behaving a certain way. So I could write about film just like I was writing about these essays that we read. Okay? What if these essays were acted out? Could I write about the play in the same way? Sure. Okay, so don't always think that just because it's not a book, it's not as hard to write about. Or we just do really simple comparisons. It doesn't always have to be simple. Probably remember the Venn diagram from I don't know, 6th grade or something. Okay? The Venn diagram is a really neat tool though, even still today, in that it'll help you organize or help you pre-write some of your ideas. Just you pick your two subjects. So for example, if I put turkeys in the oven here and I put serving in Florida over here, as far as differences, one is in the home, serving in the home and having guests, and the other is having to serve complete strangers, but still have to put that game face on. You have your boss in the back yelling at you, and you still have to come out and go, "Here you go, sweetheart. I don't know you, but I want to shove this in your face." Okay, so you can have your differences on the two sides, and then the likenesses in the middle. What were the similarities? Did anybody think of any similarities really, other than this? Both of them were serving. The fact that they had not flat characters, they weren't flat, but they were static characters. The turkeys in the oven. And the serving in Florida.
They both have chaos, something that was interfering with.
They both dealt with that interference and the chaos, and the fact that when you're in this serving in Florida, you have the cook in the back screaming all these things. You have to deal with the boss, and at home this person's dealing with their husband, who's kind of the head of the household. Yeah, the guests and all the chaos around. So that you could talk about those similarities. Okay, we're going to do a simple comparison. This is just a simple comparison. You'll see there that I gave you some boxes or whatever. I want to compare. You can use one side of that sheet if you'd like. I would like you to compare a nest to a home, a bird's nest to a home. I'm not going to make the circles because I want to write straight, and I already have trimmer, so I don't write as straight as anyway. So on your own, just come up with some differences. Put nest on one side and house or home on the other side. And this is a very simple comparison. The hardest part is going to come up with the similarity, I think. Okay, and so, in the interest of time, let's just deal some of them out. You guys are certainly allowed to write them. So, some differences about, some things that are just common about nests that maybe aren't common about houses.
They're temporary.
They're temporary, usually, okay? Okay?
Unprotected? No.
I don't know, that could be arguable. I think that, have you ever seen like the ones that make theirs in Adobe and they're very particular. They put them under like a house, the eave of a house to protect themselves. So they're both used for protection. I can put that here. So, shape, structure. The nest structure is usually what we would consider fairly simplistic, right? I think some of them can get very complex with their weaving of materials, but okay. Any others? There you go. They're both made of, I said they both use trees.
Yeah, that's kind of what.
Although some can use Adobe and like, I know woodpeckers, even though they call them woodpeckers, will peck into your siding of your house and yeah, use that. But okay. So you get the general, you get the gist of what you would do.
Can you say they both meant to either have a temporary habitat or a final home? Can you say that? Like for the nest, it could be a temporary or it could be.
Oh, you want it to be
That's still
different?
it's kind of like a home for the bird, right?
Right.
People live in houses, they rent or they buy the house.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
yeah. So the bird builds the house themselves. Or steals the home of another bird, by the way. They do that. And unless you're really, really a bad person, you have your home built. Right? I suppose you could steal the home of another person. Okay. So, but you get the idea. It's very simplistic. Any sixth grader could really look at this and do a simple comparison. You know, both are shelter, and here I have some of the same likenesses. Both are shelters. Birds make their nests just like humans make their homes. Both use trees. Humans use lumber from trees. Birds use twigs from branches. Both can shelter more than one inhabitant. Both take up space. And both have to be taken care of. Birds might have to repair a hole. Humans might have to repair a leak. Okay. In contrast, nests are usually smaller than houses, and houses are bigger than nests. House generally has a roof. A nest is a place for a bird to lay an egg. Nests are simple, houses are more complex. Houses usually have more than one room in them, and a bird can live in a house as a pet, but humans don't generally live in a nest. Although women do nest when they're having children. Simple comparison. Is this what you're going to do for your essay?
No.
Heck no, and if this is what you think you're going to get away with, you're in trouble. So when we're looking at our piece, it doesn't have to be novel. It could be short story A and short story B. But you could be looking at major characters. Well, here we only have one, the narrator, and it's first-person narrator. So we can compare the nuances between the narrators. One is very prim and proper. One is very, the gal in Florida, you could just hear her saying, "Shut up, Al," or something like that. Remember, like Alice and Mel or whatever. You compare minor characters, but what you can't do is you can't compare a major character to a minor character. It's not really fair. You kind of have to even the playing field. Okay? So what you don't want to do is you don't want to, for one piece, talk about major characters and then the other piece talk about the plot to try to compare. Okay? Or like a minor character compared to the, and then compared to the author's life. Although, I argued that one time with the professor. I was like, because have you ever, like Stephen King almost always puts himself in his novels as a minor character. And so I would actually argue right here, why can't I show a similarity to an author's life? But here nor there. Okay. You can discuss how symbols help to create theme, but you have to use them in both pieces. Okay? Like, for example, the metaphor of a turkey in a kitchen, then what metaphor is used, or are there metaphors used in serving in Florida? Okay? Or is there symbolism, or is there a particular mood that is brought about by how the person is writing? Okay? So if I use symbolism to talk about theme here, then I'd have to use symbolism to talk about theme there. But I can't talk about theme here and symbolism there. Okay? You have to even the playing field. Okay, so on your sheet you have talking about, what is it, autumn and spring? Okay. We want to make a little bit more than a simple comparison between, a little bit more complex. Kind of like if you're looking for something in literature. For example, if I was thinking of autumn and spring, and I was looking for the mood, what kind of comparisons could I make? The mood of autumn and the mood of spring. What kind of details would I talk about? Yeah, downtrodden. Maybe comfortable, but okay. So spring usually designates rejuvenation and happiness, and autumn usually represents the death, or right, because the trees. Okay, this is blasphemous, but I always thought God had it wrong. Why isn't everything like all vibrant, red, and beautiful, and then turns green and dies? No, it's red, vibrant, beautiful, now it turns brown and dies, and then in the summertime becomes green, and that means life. How is that life? Green is like, I turn green and I die. So I think that it's a little backwards. Oh my. Never thought of it that way. I'm telling you. So, no, but yeah, autumn are those, those warm colors, right? That designates, you need to go in and hibernate, you need to keep yourself warm, and spring is the rejuvenation or the rebirth of things. What would be some other things other than the colors? The weather, sure. One's temperate and one, well, both of them are kind of temperate climates. One's a little cooler than the other. What else besides temperature? What happens in the fall?
Halloween.
Halloween, there you go. Activities. What activities do you represents the fall and what activity that represents the spring. Easter egg hunts represent the spring for me. In the fall we have football. I mean, everybody's waiting for football. We all love to just, stay in our houses and wait for that. So here you go. This is a little bit stronger comparisons, but we're looking at temperatures, cooler, warmer, some changes. We can look at leaves change or the flowers blooming. But if we were looking at literature, we could look at the changes like the static and dynamic, okay? Or say that these changes actually represent something else, right? Like life and death or birth, the symbolism of it. By the way, the colors in autumn are almost always primary colors, and the spring colors could be pastels, right? Okay, we're going to work. This is the part that I think you guys will like. Could I have you turn on the lights? Okay. I have enough for each person. You can take probably 2 of each kind. This, we'll call, let's see here. We'll call this the green cookie. Okay, so if everybody can come up and get themselves some cookies. If, by the way, you have, on the packaging it did say that it was processed in plant with nuts. So if you have a nut allergy, if you don't want to take a cookie, you don't have to. But if you don't, they're brand new out of the package. And they're just chocolate chip. Okay, 2 of each. If you're not that hungry, you can take 1 of each. I think there's enough for 2 of each, but if you're not very hungry, you don't have to take 2 of each. I'm just giving them to you so you can eat later, so I don't have to bring them home. Don't eat them yet. We have to do our work with them. Remember that the darker cookies, the green cookie. The lighter cookies, not green. I didn't provide sodas and drinks for you guys, I'm sorry. Where's the milk? I just got my safe. Okay. Establishing purpose for comparison is the biggest issue. Because I can make a simple comparison of these cookies. They're both the same size. They both have chocolate chips, right? Okay. But if I establish a purpose for comparing them first, then I up the ante as far as the complexity of the comparison, right? So, let's come up with some reasons to compare cookies. Why would we compare cookies? Well, that's things that we would compare. So, what do you mean? Clarify. Why would we compare flavor?
So we know what we want to.
There, we can compare because we're a consumer and we want to know which we like better, right? You had that Pepsi versus Coke taste test, right? So it could be Just like our first essay, evaluation, right? So our purpose for writing might be to evaluate a product. So then we can decide, okay, if I'm evaluating this product, the same as when I evaluated your first product, you have to come up with things that you're going to say, here's my criteria. In order to be a cookie that I'm going to continue to purchase, it better have a lot of chocolate chips. It better be flaky, whatever your decision, whatever your criteria is. What are some other reasons besides comparing flavor? Okay, why would I compare calories? Health reasons. Maybe I'm a dietitian and I want to say that this, that this cookie is better for your family than that cookie. Okay, so if I establish that as my purpose, is we're looking at dietary issues, then I'm probably going to be looking at things like additives. Is it sugar-based? Is there a lot of oils in it? Things like that. What are some other comparisons I can make?
The cost.
So maybe I'm a marketing agent, and I might be looking at, hey, how much can I put this out in the market for? Okay, or better yet, I'm a marketing agent, and I'm trying to tell Kashi, that who gets all the good stuff, all the good food, trying to tell Kashi, the green company that's making cookies, how they can get to this new market of people who want to be healthier, as compared to the market who just wants to go buy the Keebler Elf funny-looking cookie for their kids because I want cookies! Okay, so maybe I'm a marketing agent. And if I'm a marketing agent, what kind of comparisons am I going to look at?
Packaging.
Packaging. Placement of packaging. If I could get 3 cookies instead of 2 cookies. What was that?
How appeal is.
The appeal. Exactly. And the appeal to who? What market do I want to? Kashi doesn't want to sell. Kashi does not want to sell to the 3-year-old.
The parents.
Kashi wants to sell to the person who's buying the granola bars and riding their bikes all the time and who wants to save the earth today. That's who Kashi wants to sell to. Okay? But Keebler, who does Keebler want to sell to? They want to sell to, actually who they want to sell to is the 23-year-old mom who has the little kids. Yeah, that's who they want to sell to.
Why the 23-year-old?
23 to 27 is the average age of anybody who I want in my karate school to get it, or anyone who has children the ages 3 to 14. I want every 23-year-old in the world to come through my karate. Boys, I love you. Boys, you are so much fun to practice karate with. Okay? But if I want to make money, I need that 23-year-old lady with her little kid to come in. It's biased. It is. It's a bias. I mean, that's what a marketing agent has to know. Okay?
Why is it that 23-year-old?
Because the 23-year-old mom, she's not the one with the pocketbook, but she's the one that says, honey, we're going to do something with these kids. And this is the best thing for them. I went and I checked out 3 karate schools, and this is it. They're the ones who gets their husband to say, and how much was that class?
I get what you're saying.
All right. Guys, we like when you come in and we show you all the cool stuff, and you're like, okay, I'll sign up. But you're not the bread and butter. Okay, so cookies. So you have valuation, you have analysis. The marketing agent has to do analysis. This is the lowest rung that I want you guys to work with. Analysis, taking apart. They take apart their consumer and they say, what do they want? They have focus groups and they say, I've got these cookies. What's going to help me sell them? What image do we want? Who are we going to go to and say, give me marketing money? Who are we going to go to and say, put this on your shelves on the 3rd shelf, not the bottom shelf? Okay, so that's analysis. That marketing agent has to do analysis, as we have to do analysis when we're looking through our stories. And we have to take it apart and we have to find pieces that fit. Okay, so it's a lot harder than a nest is made out of twins. Okay? So, take your cookies. I'm going to tell you that the darker cookie, if we had let it set for an entire hour and a half class period, you would have a oil mark. We found this out on the paper. It will draw the oil out. It has more oil in it. Or it seems to, I don't know why, but that's what we found out. Compare it. Textures, however you want to do your comparison. Okay? It could be smell, texture, flavor. How many? Count the amount of. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you which is which. But I'm a marketing manager. This was one of the packages. Okay? This is the national brand, Chips Ahoy. Real chocolate chip cookies, original. Okay? Has this really special seal that you could reseal. That might be appealing to some people. On the back, one of the cookies, and I'm not going to tell you which, both of them are 3 cookies per serving. One of them is, both of them have 70 calories from fat, but one of them is 160 calories and the other is 150. So if you're 150 and only 70 from fat, it has less saturated fat, right? This is the store brand. It costs $1.99 at Consumers. This is the national brand. It costs $3.24. This is where the national brand was located. This is where the store brand was located. Okay? National brand. You look on the back, it says, visit us on Facebook. So, the store brand says, a big, huge sell-by date, and a quality guarantee. If you don't like it, if you're not completely satisfied, call with your comments or go online at www. Which one seems a little bit more conscientious about their customer? They just say go to Facebook. So do these. Oh, but this says enjoy greatness.
Isn't that one saying that you can call too?
It does have a telephone number, but it just says visit us on Facebook or call on weekdays.
Only on weekdays.
Only on weekdays. It doesn't say satisfaction guarantee. It just says visit us. So maybe I'm going to visit them to go on their little survey, or maybe I'm going to visit them to, maybe they'll have a coupon. Does the store brand ever have coupons?
Not
Unless it's like buy 3 for stocked up. Okay? Alright. Let's see from the class. Class. If you like the darker cookie the best as far as flavor, raise your hand.
I didn't try it.
Try it. Try it. The green one's the lighter cookie. The darker cookie is the, I suppose it's like one special.
I liked whichever one had more chocolate chip. One of them
Which one had more chocolate chips?
I don't know, I think it was the lighter one. The lighter one.
Okay. Has everybody tried it? Who prefers the darker one? You prefer the darker one? What do you like about the darker one?
I like Chips Ahoy.
Me too. Who likes the lighter one? Every single time I have had this taste test, and which, by the way, I've conducted this taste test for like 4 years now. It's always the lighter one, and the lighter one is the store brand. It costs $1.99. I always get the people to say.
Kroger's was better than Great Value.
Just throwing that out there. Yeah, I haven't tried Great Value. Oh, and by the way, there's one called Back to Nature. that's the Kashi brand. That's what I used to give to students, was the Back to Nature. I used to do Back to Nature and then the Chips Ahoy. And the Back to Nature tastes like a box. And you might as well have eaten a box with a little bit of sugar to it. I actually had a gal ask if she could have the rest of the box so that she could force it to children. If you would like an additional cookie, please feel free. Because I don't eat a lot of cookies. So do you guys get the idea what I'm talking about? That you can make anything simple or you can make it complex. And what I want you to do is I want you to look beyond the, well, there's more chocolate chips in this one, so I like it. That's what would a
Hey.
Sorry. Sorry. But I want you to look at the analysis. Okay, analyze the story. Analyze the novel. How many of you guys have ever went to a movie and then had like a boyfriend, girlfriend, parent, somebody like best friend, and then like the whole way home you're talking about the value or the good. This is what. Oh, I don't know. That wasn't such a good movie. They could have done this better. They could have done that better. Right? It wasn't very believable. Like if I were the national chain, the sensory enjoyment. That's things like smell, taste, texture, serving, size. I'm going to enjoy my cookie more if I could have, for example, when you did the Back to Nature, you only got 2 cookies. And they were about the same size. So if I could only have 2 per serving size, or I could buy 3. Some people are like, if I get 3, that's more enjoyable to me because I'm full, right? Or the other person's like, and it's just a matter of preference, but. Okay. I've already mentioned this, but there are 4 types of essays: valuation, interpretation, analysis, and synthesis. Okay. Valuation we've already did. We've already completed that when we did our first essay, and that's just comparing things to decide which is the most valuable of the 2. Okay. So in your notes, you probably want to write that. You probably want to know what valuation is, because it's probably on the test. Two or more options are compared for the purpose of determining the more valuable of the 2. Interpretation is when I compare, like the analysis part or the analogy part, where maybe I compare 2 things, one thing that you kind of know about and one that you don't. I use that comparison to help explain something you don't already know. So I use analogy to explain, like if you already know what football is but you've never seen rugby, I could use the analogy of football to say, well, it's just like football except, and that gives you the idea. And that's just, it helps you interpret because you use that analogy. Okay? Am I going too fast? Because we don't have much time. Is this in our book? These definitions? It might be. What book? That's why I'm doing it. The spiral one. Yes, they probably are. Okay. Analysis. This is the one that I at least want you at this level, where you're looking at breaking down the subject, finding the individual parts, the theme, the syntax, the characterization, the plot elements. Okay? So you break down the component parts in order to discuss. So like maybe I would use character flaws. Our guy in dumpster diving definitely seems to have a bit of a flaw in that he's happy with his lot in life, right? That would be, normally, normal society wouldn't accept that. Our majority of our society. The last one is synthesis. Thesis means put, place, or position, remember? Well, syn, S-Y-N, means put together. So we put together our position by using all kinds of information outside and inside. So like our prior knowledge, You guys use synthesis every time you use critical thinking skills. I can use what I've learned in English 090 class, and I can bring it into Humanities 123, and I can write a Humanities 123 paper because Ms. Benjamin showed me things about structure. That's what synthesis really means. Okay? It means pulling together a bunch of little parts and making a whole. So I give an example of, maybe I'm comparing and contrasting the first Star Trek series to the Next Generation series. In the two shows, personal relationships are very different. The original series, men formed boys' clubs. Girls were really just kept there at subservient positions, and they were there mostly for romance and like the Blue Gal, first Spock, the like. Okay, but in the Next Generation, first of all, the women held a lot higher ranks, right? And the women were looked at in more of a hierarchy. Picard kept his relationships with like a benevolent father. He did have romantic relationships, but always with reservations. None of the crews formed loyalties with each other as deep as those from the first series. And women seem to have more equal roles to that of men. Okay, so that would be a way of comparing those two programs. Okay. I will, I just want to show you weak theses. Weak thesis statements. I can see some similarities and some differences. Both of them involve only this, both of them are just this theme, and you don't have any differences. Okay? I told you if you stayed till 3:45 and you were good and you didn't pick on me, that I would give you guys a choice. Here's the choice. As long as you keep it to the analysis level, you can choose what material you would like to. Okay, so it does not have to be the literature. However, if you choose to do the literature, that's going to, first of all, then that's a challenge. If you do choose to compare and contrast one of the two stories, you're challenging yourself, and kudos to you. If you are that person, I will help you. I don't mind coming to the library. I don't mind coming to Panera Bread. If you want help and you want to do that, okay? I'm not saying that those of you who aren't comparing the literature are any less, okay?
Just come to Panera Bread.
Okay, I'll still come to Panera Bread for you, but I'm saying if you really want the challenge, do the literature comparison. But I'm looking more for structure right now in 090, and understand that when you get to like 121, or when you get to the higher levels of writing, that you're going to have to probably do a similar essay, but it's going to be, and I wanted to point those things out so you can start looking at it. Start thinking about that as you're going through your educational experience, okay? I don't want to make the essay so difficult that you guys are just banging your heads. So, if you would like to compare, it has to be on the analysis level. Okay, you have to analyze something like you're the marketing manager, or maybe, here's one, Whole Foods compared to King Soopers. If you were a marketing person, go in and conduct an interview at Whole Foods, and go in and conduct an interview at King Soopers, and say, how come you put your end shelves this way? King Soopers does it this way. King Soopers says, oh, because that's the easiest to put all the stuff that everybody has on sale. I'll guarantee you Whole Foods has a different reasoning. Okay? So do your homework and conduct those interviews or a focus group or whatever. So show me that you've done some analysis.
What is a working rough draft?
Working rough draft means that you need some material, probably at least your introduction thesis and your main ideas, kind of scheduled. Yeah.
Okay. I knew something.
Is there a link? 5 paragraphs work well, right?
Yeah.
Hey guys, there's more cookies. Take them with you.
So can I compare like 2 movies?
Just like with the same, like, overhead,
Again, one of the, most of them have Colin Farrell in it, and, well, yes, but I kind of put them together.
I know you did that, I wonder if that was
Turn on the light. How late were you? When did you come in? I don't think you missed much. I think you were just doing, did you come in when we were still discussing the story?
No.
So you're more than 3 minutes ago.
No, I said 20.
Oh, 20!
Yeah.
We mostly discussed just like the merits of the stories and some of the differences.
Can I ask you a
comparisons
question?
that were made
Sure.
there.
What did they say on these ones? She's going so fast.
I told a story about the toxic pretty good. I don't know if you did a little something about like toxic.
And actually,
You missed quite a bit of how you hear those things.
if you want to write down,
Where's my sign-in sheet, guys?
it's on my desk, right there.
Ma'am?
If we choose to do the essays, does it have to be the way that you assign them? I mean, do I have to do turkeys in Florida, or I can choose? Okay.
We can do it, but I have to write down some notes here because I have no clue, what we're supposed to do.
I
You compare
chose
two
those
items.
four because they have the best elements for theme and
Really, you think so?
all of them. I do. I just, yeah.
Because I picked
Both-
two, but they're not the way that they
Both
were
very
assigned.
accepting of their lot in life kind of thing.
If you want to write down your email,
Yes, I do.
I'll send you a link.
Can I write it here?
Yeah, and I've got all the classes.
I don't think I have one.
I do.
Oh, she
I have
has a stapler.
Yeah.
I brought one for the first class that I went home and
Yeah, bro, thank you very much.
emptied my
Appreciate it.
Sure.
emptied my bag because I was working on something.
So are
and I
we
forgot to
supposed to
throw it back
compare
in.
like two things?
Mm-hmm.